Earthbound travelers. It's Friday. That means it's time for Cast Guidance. I'm Tier the DM, the world's okayest DM. And with me today, as always, I have Raph the Mad. Hey, Raph.
Greetings, greetings, greetings.
And the unruly one, Locke Clark.
Pew, pew, pew.
Guys, it's going to be a random tangent kind of day, just so everybody's aware. Get ready to sit down, strap in, and hold on. Before we get started, just a couple quick announcements. We are for mature audiences, so viewer discretion is advised. We do not encourage the use of nicotine products such as vaping. We want you to be happy and healthy. Although we may do it, we're not asking you to do it. Just take care of yourself. And finally, we are not associated with any kind of like TTRPG creators, publishers, and manufacturers. We're just three questionable individuals coming together to give our questionable opinions on TTRPG topics.
Very questionable opinions.
Can I trust this face?
This
Locke,
is my
you
trust.
Give a shout out.
Yeah, sure. I will. I would like to say hi, gamers. Thanks for tuning in, and we'd like to give a special shout out to the musician who made our theme song, which is really fucking cool, and we absolutely love it. And that is our very own Patrick Taylor, Peculiar Patrick. Thanks, Pants.
Thank you, Pants.
Mm-hmm. All right, gamers. It's that time of the week. It's that time where you look at yourself and say, I really like this place. I want to support Will of the Dice. So go out to patreon.com. Log into patreon.com. Look up Will of the Dice. Hit subscribe. Help support us. Get access to things before everyone else can. Get access to after the rolls. We discuss, after the game, how we feel about things. What fuckery Tier did to us this time. Why Sarek seems to be the world's most interesting man wherever he goes, or the most wanted. One of the two. So yes, check us out. Subscribe. Help support this channel. We really appreciate it.
All right. So it's Friday by Garth Dakeen's Sacred Taint. It's been a hell of a week, y'all.
Yup.
Indeed.
So we're looking for tangents, eh?
Yes, go ahead and cast the tangent, Raph. I know you have one ready.
I had a thing come up, and I already answered the ruling because I was dumb and went looking for the answer. But in games, in my D&D game on Monday night, they wanted to cast Wall of Fire behind a wall into another room. I'm like, and we looked at this. The wording of the spell says just anywhere within 60 feet. I'm like, I was tired, so my brain wasn't totally functioning. So I said, and we didn't want to go dig into the rule books to pause gameplay. So I ran with it. All right, sure, you could cast that Wall of Fire on the other side of that wall. It didn't do much other than, get the fight started. Cool. I guess this is a case of rule of cool / do we stop the gameplay and game flow to dig into the rule books to find that one sentence that says otherwise, or do we just make a ruling and run? I made the ruling and ran with it, and I'll deal with it next time we game. Saying, I found the rule that says no, you have to be able to clearly see the target before you drop the area of effect. It's in chapter 10 of the Player's Handbook, buried under targets. One little sentence. But your opinions, your thoughts about making those rulings on the fly and running, or do you spend time digging into your rule book to try and find a more correct answer?
So the official Will of the Dice stance is that we will allow 5 minutes to look up a rule. After that, I make a ruling, we go with it, and if I need to wreck on it, we will. Perfect example is last Sunday's Bloodlines game. I allowed the dispelling of a magic item, which is dispel magic not supposed to do. But in the time I couldn't find the answer that fit without leaving more questions. And I was trying to be quick on it. So I went with rule of cool. Yeah, sure, you can dispel this. So.
It should be noted for anyone who didn't listen to that episode of Bloodlines that he made me roll against the spells level. The way the mechanic for Dispel works is you have to roll 10 plus the level of the spell as the DC. Assuming that an artifact like that had a 9th level spell, I knew I needed to roll a 19 or higher, and I nat 20'd on my roll to Dispel, which is part of why Tier was like, yeah, we'll let that work. It was a nat 20.
Mm-hmm. And I did do that on Monday night. I did all right, give me an intelligence save. Beat a DC 15 or an intelligence save to see if you can correctly guess how far into the wall, on the other side of the wall, you're dropping this area of effect. So it wasn't a give me. They still had to make a roll. And that's something, I guess, for DMs, if nothing else, make them roll for it. Let up the will of the dice. So yeah, that was the big gaming thing that cropped up.
So interestingly, now you said that there's a targeting rule.
Yes.
In chapter 10, can you read what that rule says? Do you have it up?
Yes, I do. A clear path to the target. To target something, you must have a clear path to it, so it can't be behind total cover. If you place an area effect at a point that you can't see and an obstruction such as a wall is in between you and that point, the point of origin comes into being on the near side of that obstruction.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So because Wall of Fire simply says on a solid surface within range.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise, I would point out that Fireball reads the same way.
Yep.
Fireball says a bright streak flashes from your pointing finger to a point you choose within range. Now, I've seen arguments before, and it's a really murky area of the rules. Do you have to? The spell does not say you have to see it. If there's a door in between you and the other side of that wall, and you have seen what's on the other side of that door, can you still pick that point within range as where the spell lands? Do you have to be able to see it in that second? You know that spot is there.
Clear. Yeah. Well, this is a clear path to the target, but yes.
I'm going to go with the ruling based on what Raph read is that, yeah, you've got to be able to see it.
Yeah, no, and I'm fine with that. I'm just saying that I have seen that argument happen. The spell says I can point at a spot within range. I'm pointing at it. It's on the other side of that door. And I've seen what's on the other side of that door. I peeked through the keyhole or what the fuck ever.
Yeah, see, but my argument would be with Fireball, it emanates from you and goes forward. So you're just going to blast that door with Fireball, essentially.
Yeah.
It's going to impact the first thing it hits in its line of path.
No. I mean, I agree. I don't disagree with you, but I disagree with how you're working. Fireball doesn't travel. A streak of light emanates from you, and when the point of light touches, when the point encounters the spot you chose, that point explodes. It is not a fireball blasting out from your hands. That is the way it gets skinned a lot, but that is not what that spell says. A mote of light basically streaks forward from your hands, and when it gets to the spot you picked, it then explodes. There is not a ball of fire traveling anywhere. That ball cannot be intercepted. Right. It is a mote of light that it is a laser pointer. That's all it is.
So do Tabaxi have disadvantage on saving throws?
Against Fireball? Yes, all the ways.
But no, based on the rule from chapter 10, it would impact the door because that would be the closest point on the other side of the obstruction.
Okay. Yes, but I just wanted to point out that, like I said, I didn't disagree with Raph. I just disagreed with Raph. Not that the door would not be where the fireball landed, but it would not be because the fireball was traveling there. It would be because it's just a mode of light. Everyone gets that wrong. If you actually read the spell, you just flick a mode of light. No one sees the fireball until it explodes. unless you choose to skin your spell that way, and I'm for reskinning your spells. But what that means is that if there's a door with a keyhole and I peek through the keyhole, I, as a wizard, seeing that target, can point my finger and the light will go where I want it to, and it will bypass that door because it's going where I see.
If there's a keyhole, you could cast through the keyhole. I would give you that.
You'd have to stick your finger in the keyhole.
No, because you have to be able to see it. It's what you see, not where you point your finger towards the target.
Yeah, but you're not that good at a damn aim.
No, it's line of sight. I'm aiming. It's my mind. I'm casting it with my fucking mind, Raph.
Yeah, but
I'm not casting it with my finger. The finger is just the emanation point.
Yes, but you got to line up the finger with your target through the keyhole.
I'd still allow it.
Yeah, I think you're being overly pedantic there, Raph.
Oh, coming from you, Locke.
Oh, I fully admit when I'm being overly pedantic. Thank you kindly.
Yes, I'm being disagreeable.
I will let you know when I'm being. I am fully cognizant when I go full pedant, and I will let you know when I know that I'm doing that. But, yeah. So that's interesting. So I had a question regarding the end of Bloodlines.
Okay.
And I had a question. I have answered my own question, but I thought I would share what I discovered. So I asked you right at the end of Bloodlines, as we were falling, if I had time to wild shape, and you said no. And I was okay with that ruling, but then I went and double checked that because it made me ponder the idea. How far can a person fall in one turn? In 6 seconds. Now, I don't agree with this answer, but I'm willing to accept it for simplicity's sake, because I don't want to try and do the math, because I'm not a math nerd. But according to Jeremy Crawford has said, basic falling rules in D&D assume a fall is instantaneous. If you'd like rules for a very long fall, take a look at the section called Falling in Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Moving on further, in Xanathar's, it says that you fall 500 feet in a turn, because that is terminal velocity. Now, I will agree with this for simplicity's sake. But the problem I have with it is that humans don't instantaneously reach terminal velocity. You have to fall for an amount of time before you gain terminal velocity. And so just applying terminal velocity at the start of any fall should not work. But breaking down that math is just going to make the game more complicated and harder. So I'm okay with not doing that, with just applying it that way. But it still feels wrong to me to just say.
Yeah, but the distances you're looking at, if you're falling for more than 6 seconds, you're hit terminal.
Yeah, but yes, absolutely. But how far? But the real question is, in real life, falling, how far could you fall in 6 seconds? You know, that's the real question. So,
oh, we are both wrong. According to the Googles, in general, a person falling through the air on Earth reaches terminal velocity after 12 seconds, which covers about 1,500 feet. A skydiver reaches terminal velocity of about 121 miles per hour, or 54 meters per second. That's interesting.
Okay, well, given that math, I would say that's close enough. Yeah, all right. So but it takes 12 seconds to reach terminal velocity.
Yep.
Which means 2 rounds worth of falling to get to that speed. But that still means, so somehow they said that what I saw said that a 500-foot fall in D&D is terminal velocity, according to like damage rules.
Well, fall of every 10 foot you fell, you get 1d6. So 20d6 is maximum, so that's 200 foot. If I'm doing right.
Yeah,
which is bullshit. So you're only taking a max of 120.
Yeah, but 120 would kill any first level character.
Yeah, but it wouldn't kill like a 10th level character.
No, but 10th level characters don't exist in reality. We are not superhuman like that. We don't have, our XP does, our hit dice do not go up the way that characters do. That is a game conceit. We are all superhuman. So that's so I'm okay with a fall of that nature not killing a superhero. And once you are 10th level, you are, the Avengers are 10th level heroes. They're like they're more like 12, but 12 to 15, I would say, are the Avengers. In the first Avengers movie, they are like level 12. So that's almost
Siri
any
says
of them.
that. Siri says that their hit dice do go up. So.
Yes, a house cat can kill a first level wizard. Absolutely. In a Champions game once, we built a cat. It was a ranged kill attack. It was a 1-point ranged kill attack. Sticky requires activation. Grab cat, shake cat, throw cat.
Yep.
Yeah, Rat almost killed a level 3 fighter in the previous in Scions. So
yes. So there are some issues with the hit point system as it exists in relation to reality, and we all just accept that. I mean, if we want to compare reality to D&D, y'all gonna get me to get out a soapbox and talk about arming swords for half an hour, and how D&D has screwed up the language around sword types for everyone, especially people who are documenting them for like museums and shit. Like, D&D gets swords horribly wrong from the start, but that's a different soapbox.
And we're not that desperate yet.
No. I could give a TED talk on what constitutes the difference between a long sword and a two-hander. But
one's long, the other has two hands there.
But where is the line? When does a sword stop being a long sword and become a two-hander? I know the answer.
When you use two hands on it.
No, because all long swords are capable of being wielded two-handed.
Siri agrees with me. When you need two hands, that's
so a long sword would be a two-handed sword for a hobbit.
Let's not even have that argument. God.
Oh,
there you go. Again.
We're not going into this again.
When the pixie picks up the butcher knife, and it's a great weapon.
So, for those, we have spoilers here. So we're going to talk a little bit about the battle from Sunday.
Ooh, yeah, that was fun.
I was worried that y'all would hate it. Hey, there's a Siri in the background. Hi, Siri.
They say hi, Siri. They can't see you over there. You're out of frame. There you go. Now wave.
That is, of course, Siri Cat, the proprietor of Red Panda Dice and
Delights.
and Delights.
Or you can get one of these. One of these right here.
Yep.
It's a plushie. It's a Red Panda plushie. They're gorgeous. They're fun. You should order one. You should go there now. There's a link in the chat. Or there will be momentarily.
Mm-hmm. So, yes, the fight.
So when I constructed this, I was like, oh my God, they're going to hate this. There are spoilers ahead, just so you know. The fight was an unconventional fight. It was not about hit points versus hit points, stabby, stabby versus stabby, stabby. It became, in essence, a giant game of keep away. Keep the crown away from the skeleton. Keep the monster that's trying to revive the skeleton away from the skeleton. Keep Physic and Duna away from each other. It was very unusual. And as a player, Locke, how did you feel about it?
Oh, I thought it was awesome. I absolutely loved it. I don't know that I would have loved it as much if I wasn't playing a druid, quite frankly. But as the druid in the party, it really it catered to the druid's strengths in that. And I said this in After the Rolls, and if you're a Patreon subscriber, you might get to hear that full diatribe. Druids, by the nature of their class, force the player to think in creative ways outside of the box. Because you can wild shape. And wild shape changes everything. It gives you weird solutions to problems. And when you start getting into that headspace, when you start thinking about, well, if I turn into this and I can do this, you then start looking at everything on your sheet that same sort of way and thinking about different ways that you can implement it while you're in different forms and things. I got to try things that I've thought about doing. Some of them to better effect than others, but I felt like it was a great fight. I got to conjure animals for the first time and bring in a couple of giant octopi to just make the board more complicated.
Now I have to go listen. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, okay, Tyr, I want to ask about something I did in that combat that didn't really seem to have as much effect as I was hoping it would.
Okay.
But I want to know, would it have had a different effect if I had done it on a living creature rather than an inanimate object or an inanimate skeleton? I cast Reduce on a crown that was being worn by a skeleton. Shrinking the crown by half its size while it was on the head of a skeleton. In theory, that should have crushed the skull.
In theory. One of the things, and I've actually spent a lot of time Googling this and seeing what other people have to say and everything. One of the problems is that the skull is round, and as it begins to shrink, it would actually ride up. But
okay,
in the game, I did allow it to do damage to the skull.
That's fair. I thought it was a great idea at the time. Like, I tried, because, all right, so for those who haven't listened, or even those who have, whatever, we said spoilers, so I'm just going to talk about it. Physic was trying to put the crown on the skeleton's head. I attempted to stop this in the first round by casting heat metal on the crown.
Which was brilliant. If he had not been in a trance, that would have worked.
Because he would have immediately dropped it.
Yep.
But instead, he sucked up the damage from the now superheated crown and went ahead to put it on the skull. So on my next turn, I dropped heat metal and cast Reduce on the crown to try and crush the head underneath the crown and thereby stop whatever was about to happen. That didn't have as much effect as I was hoping. So I then moved across the board. Meanwhile, there was other fighting going on in the room. I'm just glossing over that and talking about my parts right now, because it's me, and I'm going to talk about me. I ran across the room. Physic, after placing the this crown on the skeleton, had then turned and cut Duna's throat. I ran past Duna, cast Cure Wounds, ran up the back of the throne, perched on the back of the throne, and took the possession of the crown from on top from the skeleton. The skeleton was still an inanimate object at that point. Then I had to start making intelligence saves every round because the crown was trying to affect me. Fortunately, I'm really good at those. So, yeah, and then, go ahead.
So, this is not giving away anything for what's to come. It's just clarifying. This whole combat was basically a giant wizard's lock. Y'all found the right way to get through it. The way it was designed is that most people would come, fight the skeleton, think they won, and leave. So y'all have entered into the underneath, into the depths of the wizard's tower. What awaits you there?
So then having the crown and being worried I was eventually going to fail an intelligence save, I took a round to stow the crown in my backpack. Once the crown was safely stowed in my backpack, I then conjured a couple of octopi onto the board. Let the octopi start grappling and restraining people to stop them from doing stupid things. Winter had subdued and tied up Physic, but failed to gag him, which I think was a mistake. But I had a giant octopus grab and restrain Duna. A monstrous skeleton creature came out of the sarcophagus and started attacking. The other octopus kept attempting to grapple it, but failing. I then turned into a polar bear, a giant metal polar bear. Thereby, and the crown in my backpack as part of my backpack gets absorbed into me when I turn into an animal. So the crown stopped being accessible to anyone and ceased to exist pretty much in this plane for a minute while I was a polar bear. Kalira realized that the skeleton was absorbing all the damage we did to it and was going to use that energy to awaken the Death Knight. So I grabbed the skeleton that was sitting in the throne and drug it out of the throne and then sat on it as a giant metal polar bear for the rest of combat, while the others tried to subdue the skeleton and played keep away from the skeleton. And then we realized that we needed to destroy the crown, which led me to turn back into my shifter form and take out the crown. And then Shariz yanked it out of my hand and tried hitting it with a sword, which I thought was dumb on 2 levels. Sorry, Patrick. No offense to you. But 1, have you ever tried to hit something you're holding with the amount of force you actually want to hit it with? It's real hard. You should have just hit it while I was holding it. 2, you could have just asked. You didn't have to rip it out of my hand. I'm not salty. But Kalira was planning to come over and pour acid on the crown to destroy it. Winter had another thing. Tiami got mind controlled by the skeleton dude to come over and try and take the crown from Shariz. Shariz didn't let that happen. And then I cast the spell magic on the crown, and the crown was destroyed, and we all fell. And we don't know if Duna survived the fall or not, because we don't know if she made her saving throw. And she had 21 hit points left, and the amount of fall damage if you failed to save was 21. So we were left on that cliffhanger.
Because bastard.
Because Tyr's a bastard.
That brings in a mechanic that I borrowed from Dimension 20, and that is a damage threshold. So in order to do any damage to the crown, you had to at least do 20 points of damage on one attack, because it's an unholy relic.
Mm-hmm.
And that was interesting. That was fun to use.
I thought of one other bastardly thing to do. While wild shaped, I probably would have made you start making intelligence saves again, because you're now touching the crown inside you because you're shaped.
That's not how wild shape works.
It gets.
It's still in the back. It's still in the bag, though.
It's the backpack, and the backpack sees to it, it gets absorbed into my form as matter. It is no longer a backpack while it is in my form. My armor doesn't function. It just goes away. It becomes. That's the way wild shape is worded. It says you absorb it. It's not. You can't access. I can't utilize it, and it can't be utilized against me. That'd be like saying that someone with heat metal could target my armor when I'm in wild shape because my armor got absorbed inside me.
Might allow
you know what I mean?
A creature, but
well, all right. Say I was a normal wild shape.
Yeah.
Or polymorph. Polymorph. When you polymorph, all your gear gets absorbed into the creature, and you are now the creature.
And I can agree with that for most things, but you're talking an artifact or an potentially intelligent artifact that you're making saves against. That, I don't know, with that type of magic, that level of magic.
That level of magic is stopped by wrapping it in a cloth and not physically touching it. And it's inside a backpack, and the backpack got absorbed as matter.
So we got a question from chat. Adesha wants to know damage threshold versus damage resistance. So damage resistance is that you are resistant to a specific type of damage, whether it be piercing, slashing, bludgeoning, force, whatever. So you'll only technically take half damage when you take damage from that form of damage. A damage threshold is an item or a person has a max threshold of damage you have to hit in order to do any damage at all. And with the crown, it was 20 hit points. So you had to be able to generate 20 hit points worth of damage in a single attack in order to actually do damage to the crown. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with a damage threshold. Like, I think that's a cool effect. I think, certain artifacts, destroying an artifact should be hard, guys. It should, there's, I think destroying any magic item should be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Magic items they last forever. That's why you keep, that's why they don't generally go away. Because they're magic. They're enchanted. So they're impervious to the normal ravages of time. And they're much harder to fuck up. Your boots of spider climb don't wear out. The soles don't wear out. Why? Because they're enchanted fucking boots.
You haven't played many video games, have you?
I've played a lot of video games, and some of them have a system where something gets worn over time, and some of them don't. And I've never agreed with that system being applied to magic items. I've never agreed with it once.
Yeah, and it's obnoxious because you're constantly trying to repair your stuff.
Yeah,
it's a constant fight.
Once you get something made, once you get something enchanted, it should not run out.
But speaking of magic items, that kind of leads into a tangent we may head on the second half that I've thought about. But we'll wait for that. because it leads into a question I got from one of my audience members. Something about tormenting his DM with an artificer that sells magic prosthetics. How's that tormenting?
Yeah, I don't know how that's tormenting. I'm playing a character on Sundays that is that has a prosthetic, a magically prosthetic metal arm. I think that's totally viable. I think it's a cool, interesting bit of backstory / plot, and especially like if you're like if you want to play by like Star Wars style rules where people lose limbs, like continually, like letting one of your players get their arm cut off, and then get a cool new magic prosthetic, especially once they're high enough level that money has stopped being a real object for them. Like, yeah, why not? Or if you've got an artificer in the party who can imagine that, like, you're playing in a party with an artificer who can make things, and then you get your arm chopped off, and your buddy makes you a new limb.
Ooh.
That's fucking cool. That is a thing that you were going to remember from that table for forever. And then the cool things you did with that limb, your buddy made for you. Yeah, why not? How is that torment? I don't get it.
Well, yeah. That kind of leads into how much downtime do you give your characters, your players?
It's supposed to be 1 day for every 8 hours, according to the rules. 1 day for every 8 hours of play, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm deeply medicated today. For those that are new, I'm suffering from some more damage to my spine. So it's a miracle that I'm upright today.
Yes. Well, I'm not talking about, but in general, hey, I've been in this dungeon. Cool, we cleared the dungeon. Do you, as the DM or as part of a campaign, how much downtime in between encounters, campaign path, whatever, do you give your players to actually do things with? Here, you're for the next week, you're kind of hanging out in this town, nothing much is happening. What are you doing? So there's a week of downtime they can plan on using, or is it a continual? Oh, you wake up the next day and we're back into the rush of another encounter or whatnot.
It depends. Like, I don't want to give too much away. But like with Sins of Blood, when they were traveling to Burn to Thar to Raven's Gulch, you guys had 4 days of downtime. That's how long it took to sail, and nothing, the dice did not have any encounters occur in your sailing. Bloodlines may be getting some downtime soon. I try to give downtime every so often. Like, I think it's important. But given the nature of what's going on in the campaigns, it's not going to be as frequent as it could have been in like Scions or Darkened Queen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I was just curious because I'm playing one campaign where it's literally a nonstop and rush. Every day you wake up, what are we doing? Oh, hey, we're involved yet another thing. It hasn't been a lot of time to just sit and breathe. And for a player, it's fine because we meet once a week. We got time to in between sessions to think about what's going on. But as a person who can work at a high op tempo like that at times, it drains. As a person, you need time to sit and not for a bit. I was kind of curious, what are the thoughts on, as a DM, how much downtime do you give your players? Because in dirty downtime, you could do things like create magic items or work on skills or whatever.
Whatever. Hold on. Wait a minute.
Uh-oh.
Because because as we were talking about this, I remembered something and I went to look it back up. Xanathar's Guide to Everything has an entire section revisiting downtime, and then has examples of downtime activities, and has charts you can roll on for fucking all of them. Downtime activities include buying a magic item, carousing. There are 4 charts for carousing, motherfuckers. Crafting an item, crime, gambling, pit fighting, relaxation, religious service, research, scribing a spell scroll, selling a magic item, training, work. Those are all your downtime activities. But yeah, my favorite being carousing, which there is a basic carousing chart, then there is the low-class carousing chart, the middle-class carousing chart, and the upper-class carousing chart.
Pinkies up, bitches.
That's
right. It's a pinky up drink, motherfucker. Pinky up.
Huh.
It's just coffee. It doesn't need a pinky up. But this is work juice.
Yes, but outside of, whatever your main campaign plot is, how much time do you give your characters? How often do you give your characters?
Again, it's all situational.
Yeah, like for example, I feel like I might owe you an apology for this.
Oh no.
During the quarantine game, which was not streamed, it's the stream where the game where we played the heroes that took on the Demon Bride to stop Malcusius from entering the world the first time. And my character was a fighter, and because of that, every second of downtime that we had, my character was either drinking or was training. And I documented how much time my character was putting into training each day as part of his morning routine, and was working real hard on justifying to Tyr me upping my skill at athletics because he trained daily, as adding to my downtime training hours every day by doing some sort of exercise. We were on a ship for a lot of that campaign, so he was like doing shit in the rigging every day. He was doing chin-ups and shit in the rigging. It became something that everyone expected daily out of me too. Like, oh well, we come looking for Dar. We expect he's in the rigging doing something athletic. Yep, yeah, that's. So yeah, Tyr, I apologize for
No, it was good.
But no, the meticulous way I was keeping track of it and trying to nudge extra athletics points out of it was kind of ridiculous, and I admit that.
Then again, if you're willing to put the work into chasing all that meticulous detail down, and I don't have to, I am more inclined to grant your boon.
That's fair, I guess.
One of the things about that game, though, is that it was during quarantine, so we were playing over Discord. So I allowed them to do text-based role-playing in downtime. They weren't allowed to do anything that affected the story or anything like that, but they could do, research and stuff like that. And so that was a good use of that.
And it was quarantine, so I had very little else to do than meticulously track how many hours worth of training Dar had done in order to get that extra point in athletics. Mm-hmm. It was important because he had he was a shield master fighter. His whole thing was hitting people with a shield. So
Siri Cat says that I try and give them at least a day every time we end up in a town or civilization. That's a good rule of thumb.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I liked that.
You know, as long as when you're in the town, it's, you know, you're not doing dealings with someone that, you know, is playing the Lando Calrissian.
And you know what? I'm gonna reiterate it. You bastard, because you worded that so fucking perfectly. I got to you know play outside of like you know the norm with my warlock. I got to go be the stealthy sneaky sneak and follow the dude around and find and spy on him because he seemed hinky and I didn't trust him. And then he said exactly the right thing in a private moment that made me go, "Oh, this guy seems on the up and up. I guess we do trust him." And then went back and went, "No, he's all right. He's cool. We're good." And he had worded it just perfectly enough that I could misconstrue the meaning completely. And you bastard.
Mm-hmm. Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
Right. The player still didn't trust the guy, but the character like had no reason to doubt anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice. It was well played, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
For those in the audience, that was the Sins of Blood episode on Saturday night.
Yep,
Episode
Sins of
13.
Blood, episode 13, Old Favors.
Yeah.
And we're now potentially spell jamming. So check it out. It'll be entertaining.
Spell jam. I'm so excited about spell jamming.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, they wound up in the ancient city of Plinth, which is in the Astral Sea, and is a harbor for spelljamming ships, or a port of call. And they got to meet the Dragon Fant.
Is that what we're calling that?
That's what I'm calling that, the Dragon Fant.
All right.
The Dragofant.
The what was it? The giant evil fucking Dumbo?
Yeah.
Flying demonic Dumbo. That's it. There you go.
So imagine, if you will, an elephant with a scorpion's tail, dragon wings, and barbed tusk dripping black ooze. That is the Dragofant.
It's basically a manticore on steroids.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a manticore just put together out of different animals, and it's bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, though that's that's gonna be fun. I have to say, like, I liked the idea of both of my characters getting to go spell jamming. I was fine with either one, but of the two, like, I'm so glad it's Laz. I think Laz is a better choice. To go spell jamming, quite frankly, but like I'd have been fine if it was Atreus. But yeah, no, Laz is definitely the more swashbuckly, I think, of the two of my characters. So yeah, no, I'm good with this.
So yeah. See if chat catches up.
We only got 10 minutes before break, so I'm not going to bring that subject up yet. We'll hold that.
Yeah, I've got a subject that's going to be kind of a long discussion here for the second half.
I want to say I love that I'm looking. I've still got the carousing tables up. In the lower class carousing, a roll of 8 gets you. Everyone is calling you by some weird, embarrassing nickname like Puddle Drinker or Bench Slayer, and no one will say why. And then in middle class carousing, you spend an additional 100 gold pieces trying to impress people. And in upper class carousing, you spend an additional 500 gold pieces trying to impress people. I love the difference there. In the middle class and the upper class, you just spend more money trying to impress people. In lower class, you impress people by doing something incredibly stupid and getting a dumb nickname for it. And those are my friends.
Yeah. Kind of like Penzik. How, as Siri pointed out, how did you get that nickname?
Yeah. I showed up with mine, and everyone refused to give me a different nickname, and they just kept calling me by my name, and so I don't. I camp with a group of pirates at Penzic, and everyone has stupid pirate names, and I was like, "Hey, I want a stupid pirate name," and they were like, "Locke is a stupid pirate name. Shut the fuck up."
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, I was perusing the crafting an item chart there. A very simplistic way to make items and magic items, but yeah, some require mini work weeks.
Siri Cat says that lower caste carousing was picking up Locke.
Oh, damn.
I mean, it's true. It's true. Actually, hey, ironically, or mildly ironically, I will say, in lower class carousing, if you roll a 6 on the table, surprise, you're married. That's what it says. It says right there. I mean, you know, we like any good lesbian couple. I got the U-Haul at our second date.
Mhm.
All right, let's go ahead and take our break, and we'll be back in 10 minutes, and we'll get into these tangents that Raph and Locke had prepared. Thank you so much for hanging out. We're going to go get our snickety snacks, our beverages of choice, and get down with the get down. So we'll be back. And we are back. Thanks so much for hanging out while we got our snickety snacks, our beverages of choice, and handled things. This is Cast Guidance, the DM Roundtable talk show provided by Will of the Dice. We are the questionable DMs giving questionable advice and viewpoints on topics. Thank you so much for joining. All right, Ralph, Milad, you had a tangent for us?
Yes, I did. And this has come up because I played a couple different systems. I play in 5e, I play in Pathfinder 1.0, and some other games as well. So, as looking not for this question is not for a single session, a one shot. This is for a campaign. How do you do your magical treasure? You plan it out item by item, plot point for the items, or is it oh, that looks cool, let's give them that at the last point for a treasure for monsters? Because especially in 5th ed, we've at a certain point gold means nothing, but magic items on the other hand are a little harder to come by in general.
It depends on the campaign. I can tell you in Sins of Blood and Bloodlines, the magic items are pre-planned, designated who will get what and when they will get them. And then before the episode that they show up, I go and homebrew them so I can, or I try to, so that I can put them on the character sheet.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with that. I tend to, as a generality, for big bads, for major fights, major encounters, I will pre-plan, and I will put something. What I generally do is I'll put something in the kitty for each player, something that like this is cool for. I've got a druid, I've got a fighter, I've got a mage, I've got, whatever. I look at the party makeup and I'm like, all right, for that class, that's a cool item. For this class, that's a cool item. And I put one for each of them. And then I'll throw in often a couple of other items that could go either way and then watch who's going to take what. Like, that's interesting for me. Like, that's fun. That's entertaining for me as the DM to see who comes away with that item. And I put, there's plenty of gold and whatnot. There's enough treasure to split so that no one feels like they're getting, short end of the stick because someone got 2 items and they didn't. They got enough gold to go and get something later. But then for smaller encounters where there is going to be some treasure, I'll pick something that I'm like, well, that'd be interesting to put in the party's hands and see what happens. Or I'll just roll randomly. But if I roll randomly and it's boring, I'll choose something else.
See, I've done it both ways. One of my Eastern campaign I planned every magical item out, what levels they're going to find it, how it fit in, building to a magic armor set essentially by the time the campaign ended. And that was fun, but it was also a lot of work. This campaign running on my for 5th ed, it's a fight. We should probably give them something. I'll go over to the magical item shop generator, hit generate, and go through a list. Oh, that looks kind of cool. That could work. I'll throw that list of things they find afterwards. Or, especially if it makes something for the bad guy they're fighting or the big bad they're fighting to be carrying on them. So yeah, it works either way. It's a lot. The pre-generated thought ahead requires a lot of extra work outside of the game for the DM to come up with.
Or does it? I want to say that like if you're gonna if you're spacing it out over a campaign and you're gonna this character's gonna get something and then this character's gonna get something and everyone's eventually getting their thing, and you pick a thing for a character and then you put that thing in the bad guy's hands and let the bad guy have fun with it. That's fun for you. And then when they kill the bad guy, they get to take the thing.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't require as much thought, really. Because you're picking one item for one character at a time. and then you're making a bad guy that gets to use that thing, and then you get to fuck with your party using the thing and make them see how cool it is and then want it.
Yes, have done that. That part's fun. However, but yeah, it's just coming up with just in general the planning that goes into setting up all those items throughout the plot versus, oh hey, here's a random chart. What did they get today?
See, I like that for smaller encounters, for for non-plot encounters. Like, you know, if not all of the fights that your guys have are, you know, every campaign is the X-Files, and sometimes there's a monster of the week, and sometimes you're actually dealing with the plot. And so when you fight the monster of the week, you get random treasure.
Mm-hmm.
When you fight the plot, you get designed treasure.
Designer treasure.
That is, you know, you get what's the word? You get couture treasure.
Bespoke.
It is
bespoke.
It's bespoke for you. Yeah, there you go.
Bespoke treasure.
You get bespoke treasure versus random treasure.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was my thought. So what do you got, Titlock?
Oh, so my thing, looking back at the UA for expert classes, I noticed an implication that I hadn't noticed before in the rogue. And that is one specific phrase in sneak attack that is troublesome to me. That is on page 13 of 37 in the UA for expert classes, if you're following along at home. First level sneak attack. You know how to turn a subtle attack into a deadly one. Once on each of your turns, when you take the attack action, you can deal extra damage to one creature you hit with an attack roll if you are attacking with a finesse weapon or a ranged weapon, and if at least one of the following requirements is met. Now let's forget about the rest of the requirements because that's not the important part. Once on each of your turns being the phrase that I take issue with here. That restriction, you can only do it on your turn, has several implications. First, you can no longer sneak attack on an attack of opportunity. Even if you didn't attack with a sneak attack on your turn, attacks of opportunity come out of turn because it's a reaction, and therefore you could not apply your sneak attack to it.
Mm-hmm. I could almost buy that. The one thing I kind of looking at, going back and looking at, it says once on each of your turn. So once a turn.
Yes, but once on your turn. The your is important, not once per turn. Once on your turn, which also means, and here's the implication that really, like, the losing out on opportunity attacks is not the big deal as far as I'm concerned. But it takes the ability to set up an ambush. Anytime you decide to hold your action, you are no longer acting on your turn because you held your action and are waiting for a trigger. That means you cannot sneak attack on a held action anymore. Because it's no longer your turn. A held action is basically a reaction.
Basically, because, yeah.
So you are no longer acting on your turn, which means you no longer get your sneak attack bonus because it's not your turn to act, which I think is dumb as shit. If you take the word your out of there, changes everything.
Yeah, because I jumped back over to the rogue class from 5th ed. Sneak attack says once per turn.
Yes.
Once per turn versus not once on your turn.
That your makes a world of difference because ambushes are rogue bread and butter, man. Like, you need to be able to set an ambush.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna wait on the side of the road in hiding for these guys to walk by, and I'm going to wait till they walk past. I'm going to hold my action until they get past us, and I'm going to jump out and backstab them. Oh, but I don't get to do my cool sneak attack because it's not my turn. I held my action. I think that's an oversight on their part. I think they might have been trying to balance something when they added your, but I think they fucked it up.
In your scenario, I would allow the sneak attack because you're not in bullet time combat yet.
You're on a surprise round, but nonetheless, rules as written.
Yeah.
That does not. It no longer allows you to do that. You know.
No, I take umbrage with it as well.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying. This is a. I think we missed this when we were talking about it. Like that, yours is more important. Sorry, I froze for a second there. We sort of glossed over it when I don't think we realized the full ramifications of that when we were talking about this. So I thought it was important to bring it up once I spotted it. Like, yeah, you can't ambush people anymore. So, right, yeah. I mean, sneak attack is like Lolly says in the chat. Not to mention the sneak attack is where a lot of rogue damage comes from. Yeah, rogues only get one attack per action. They don't get a second attack because they're able to do a sneak attack once, and it's deadly enough. So limiting how they use that sneak attack, taking away ambush from them is,
I agree.
I don't think works. I think rogues have to be able to ambush. That's the whole point. To backstab someone and get that extra damage by finding the kidney or whatever. Yeah, and that's a one-word fix. You take one word out and it fixes the whole damn thing.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm just kind of looking at it because I'm reading the ready rules. Blah blah blah. They choose action like take, and you could choose move, or actually you get one action for your ready or held action.
Yes, you choose to hold your action, to ready an action until a trigger happens, and that action then becomes is no longer your action on your turn. It is now your reaction. You're able to substitute you're using your reaction to delay your action. Is how the rules are set up to work. Because you can't take a reaction the same turn that you use a readied action.
Right.
Yeah. No, I'm just digging through the thought. Okay, now scenario-wise, how would that actually play out?
So I am the rogue.
You're holding your action.
I say I'm going to hold my action and. All right. So on my turn, I disengaged and hid.
Okay.
All right. I am hiding. I'm going to wait for the bad guy to attack someone in my party. And then I am going to stab them. I'm going to jump out and stab them from hiding. So the bad guy makes an attack, and now while they're completely blind to where I was or where I'm coming from, I jump out to stab them. That should be the definition of a sneak attack. It should be.
Should be.
But I can't get sneak attack damage because it's not my turn, and that's silly.
Then you can't jump out because that's a movement. But you could shoot.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm doing the rules. How exactly would this play out in the rules specifically for this scenario? Is it how often does that come up?
I'd say as a rogue that likes to disengage, hide, and then shoot things while they're
I wasn't thinking about
that comes up all the time.
I wasn't thinking about the ranged shot as a sneak attack.
Yeah, you can totally sneak attack with a crossbow when someone is engaged with one of your party members.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, held action. Yeah, they need to fix that.
Yeah, they need to fix it.
That needs to return to once per turn, not once on each of your turns. Because unless they're gonna fix it somewhere down the line. Now I will give them that. They may have a plan for how they may be reworking how reactions work, and reaction may count as part of your turn. Technically, they may, if they reword reaction and it still counts as part of your turn somehow. I don't see how that works, but like, I'm not going to judge fully because we don't know what the full plan is for 1D&D. But this is something that I see needs to be changed or addressed somehow.
Speaking of that, the survey is now open for the expert class UA. Make sure you go and take the survey and let them know your thoughts on it.
Yes.
It works. Perfect example. In the first UA, the first playtest that was listed, the critical rules were different. You could crit success on saving throws and ability checks, and the DM could not critically hit. After the second UA come out, those rules are back to normal, where the DM can critically hit, and a nat 1 or a nat 20 on a saving throw or ability check is not automatic success or failure. So they're also listening to the community.
Yeah. Well, my impression I got is that because the second UA actually came out before the first UA survey was closed, but that in the rules glossary, they're going to throw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall, and they want to get our opinions on all of it to see which ones we like best. So we're going to get a lot of different iterations of critical and things, different ways of getting inspiration through criticals. That's a thing they're playing with right now. So we're going to see something different in every UA for the rules glossary, and we are meant to replace each rules glossary with the next one, and give them feedback on it. And it's important that we give feedback, because if we like one and we dislike another, we need to let them know that as a community. Because if you look at the changes they're making changes based on the way people play D&D and the way the community and what the community says they want. So if you're not giving voice to it, if you're not telling them what you like and don't like, then you're not you're not helping. You're not informing them what they should do for 1D&D.
Yes.
I have been. We have to wait a little while because I want a few more UAs to come out and them to release more classes.
Yeah.
But I've been toying with the idea of putting together a one shot and playing with UA rules, with 1D&D rules for classes for a one shot, just to see what happens. So we'll see what happens with that. Like that, but we need more than 3 classes available to us. I'm dying to see what they do with the Warlock. I really am. I'm really hopeful. Only because every other spellcaster that they've put out as a class so far has been changed from to prepared spells from selected spells, and the Warlock getting prepared spells instead of selected spells would be kind of huge.
Yeah, it would.
I mean,
I think Warlocks need more spell slots too.
I also think that Warlocks should that Eldritch Blast should be a class feature. You should never have to waste a cantrip slot picking that as a Warlock. They should just give it to you. It should come with the class, and then you get to pick your cantrip.
I agree. Because, I mean, Eldritch Blast is the staple of the Warlock.
Right. And the only reason there's only 2 reasons to play a Warlock without Eldritch Blast. One is if you're playing a Hexblade, you can get away without having Eldritch Blast. Because you are now a more melee-centric fighter. The other is if you are purposely playing against type. And there's nothing wrong with doing either of those things. If you want to purposely play against type and not take Eldritch Blast, that's fine. But even if they change the rules and they make Eldritch Blast a component of the class that you automatically get, you can still choose not to use it and play against type. You know, it doesn't affect that. So there's no reason for them not to just give it. In my humble opinion. Or, I guess for this show, my questionable opinion. So I guess while we're thinking this way, guys, I'd like to know, what class are you looking forward to most seeing come out in the UA, and what change do you hope they make to that class? Is there a class that you're like, this class needs this thing?
I want to see barbarians get rage as a class feature that works like Channel Divinity instead of having to use a bonus action. Because so many other classes have just, you get to do this, it's a freebie. You know, you get to turn undead, it's a freebie. Or, you know, whatever. It doesn't, unless it specifically states that it takes an action. So I think as being a barbarian, that rage should be the freebie.
I have this hilarious image in my head. By the way, I just want to share this. There used to be triggers for rage in older editions of D&D, and now the barbarian just gets to pick when they rage. All barbarians are Bruce Banner and the Avengers. You want to know my secret, Cap? I'm always angry. But like, I'm just imagining that, like, in my head, every barbarian has a text or a voicemail or something from their ex-girlfriend that they pull out and listen to right before they go into combat, just to get their anger up. That's just me. I don't know.
From the chat, Siricat says, I want fighters to be able to function without magic items. That's an interesting take.
That would. All right, here's the change I'd make to fighters. At too many points in fighter progression, especially in like the Battle Master and some of the subclasses, you are given a choice. You have to choose a thing between a couple of options or a handful of options. And those options inevitably boil down to, I can take this thing that makes me do more damage, and doing damage is the thing that fighter does. Or I can take this thing that lets me fill a different role in the party a little bit. And that should never be a choice. Because you should never have to pick that. As a fighter, you should always get the extra damage. And then the choice should be, here are things that let you play in a different realm a little bit. Pick one of them that you can kind of do. You can pick a thing that lets you be a little bit of the negotiator, or a little bit of the explorer, or a little bit of the, whatever. But you shouldn't have to pick between that and doing damage. You know what I mean? Like, and when I say, I'm talking about, you should be able to pick a secondary party role and be kind of okay at doing it. Fighters are frontliners and damage dealers. That's what they do. So you should don't make them pick between the thing that they do and the ability to have a little bit more utility in the party. That's just my opinion.
I don't
agree. I think damage should scale with fighters. If you look at scales with magic users, you get right. You start getting up to 5th, 6th, 7th level spells, and they're doing hella damage.
I'm going to disagree with you both on that.
Okay.
Having played 2 fighters now here in your worlds there, tier. At what point do we go, I just landed 9 attacks with advantage. I'm right now looking at Sarek, who I play. He's a fighter. He's a 7th level fighter. He's at a +12 to hit. and he's got a +7 to damage. Take away the +2, that's a +10 for his weapon. So he's just a straight weapon. He's at a +10 hit with his weapon, with a regular great-headed sword, and a +5 to damage. On average, I get 2 attacks every turn, with advantage on one of those attacks generally because of fighting spirit, because of samurai. On average, I'm doing between around 10 points of damage per hit before you add the magic damage into it. 2 attacks, that's 20 points of damage a turn consistently, generally. I think the thing with fighters, at least in 5th ed, is they don't have the big spike in damage. Well, until you start doing things like Action Surge, they don't have the big spike in damage, but consistently every turn they're churning out a good chunk of damage. If you want to look at the end of our game,
I have one counter to what you just said. What if you're using all of that with a straight up greatsword?
Yep.
And at a certain point, you will be fighting CR monsters that take no damage from normal weapons. You have to have a magic weapon in order to do damage to them. But
now that goes back to series.
The fighter is one of the only classes that has to go externally to do that.
Right.
Because everybody else, except for maybe the rogue.
No, the rogue would have to as well.
Yeah, but the rogue gets all kinds of other cool shit. We're not going to talk about them for this. But the fighter, because the rogue's job is infiltration. The rogue's job is pick one target and hit it. And the rogue is a different beast. We're talking about the fighter, who is the damage dealer or the tank. Those are those. I mean, that's basically what you do as a fighter. You're filling one of those 2 roles, or you're filling both of those roles. So you take a page out of the monk's book, and the monk, at a certain level, their fists become magical to make them a viable combatant. Otherwise, every monk in the world would have to have magic brass knuckles. Their fists become magical at a point. At some point, you should the warrior should get the ability that any sword they pick up is magic in their hand. Counts as a magic weapon. Period.
And I'll agree with that, because that answers Siri Cat's kind of issue with them not having magic items to be able to do it. But we brought up where the fighter needs something else to choose between damage and something else to function as a different party. I'm merely pointing out that the fighter still does a good amount of damage.
Yeah, but did you?
They do a good amount of damage, but here's the thing: everybody else's damage scales. Either through special abilities, through magic. Ranger gets better spells, like they can do better things with like Hell of Thorns or Bursting Arrow. Rogues get better sneak attack. Monks get more damage, and their fists are considered magical. The fighter's the only one that doesn't get those kind of bonuses. And
I'm still disagree with you, because I'm throwing down 2 attacks and 3 attacks well before anyone else is.
Yeah,
but Battle Masters do get it, because they get scaling maneuver dice.
Mm-hmm.
They're one of the only ones that do. I think Cyanites also get scaling dice like that, but most of the classes don't, and that's an add-on that you have to choose to add on to your attack.
Yeah, right now, 20 points of damage a turn seems like a lot, but what happens when you're still only doing 20 points a turn and you're fighting something that has 200 hit points, 300 hit points? And where your magic users are laying down 70 to 80 points a turn, and you're still only doing 20. I think that the fighter's damage should scale with level.
Yeah, I mean, look at I'm playing a 7th level warlock right now. In Sins of Blood.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the ability to drop an area of effect spell that hits everyone in the area and does 4d10 radiant damage per turn. And a point of exhaustion. Compared to your 20 points of damage as an upper level fighter per turn. Like that's significant. Now, granted, I as a warlock, I only get 2 spells a day, but fucking look at let's look at the cleric. Call lightning.
How many times can you cast that a day though?
A lot.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Karak. But I'll talk about the 4th level spells. I don't know. I'm just looking back to last season when you brought in Kieran the fighter, and he was laying down some serious damage without a lot of extra magic behind him.
Oh, believe me, I in the quarantine game, as we were just talking about, I played Dar. Dar was a fighter. Dar was he was a battle master up until some fuckery, and then I switched to being a Cyanite because of plot things that happened. Now, granted, the Cyanite and the battle master are very similar. You get similar abilities, and it didn't change a whole lot except the skinning of my abilities and what I did, and gave me a really, really big jump.
You and your jump.
The Cyanite is basically the Jedi. They had Force leap. And it was a like 1 round flight. You could move at a fly speed for 1 round, so it became a big jump, really. But yeah. So that's like I get it. I totally get it. I understand when you get to throw those 9 attacks out in 1 round, how cool it is. But compared to the druid or the cleric dropping a call lightning that is 3 or 4 d10 damage to everyone within a 5-foot area of where the lightning bolt lands per round. And as long as they hold concentration, they can drop it every round once they start that spell. I have to get 4 attacks in to do that damage. Do the same amount of damage. And as a cleric, I can spend a channel divinity as a Tempest cleric. I can spend a channel divinity and make that lightning damage maximum. Do you know how often I just said, fuck it, I'm not rolling d10s, have 40 points of damage. I'm going to spend a fucking channel divinity just to do max to you because I'm pissed.
I think at least fighters should have something like that to where they can do max damage or something. They need some buffs. They do.
Siri Cat in the chat does have a good point of view though. Fighters do need an AoE of some sort, possibly something, because
like a spinning dervish attack or something.
The old cleave attack kind of worked back from the 3rd edition, but they kind of changed the wording on that.
Can I direct your attention to the stupidest thing ever put into D&D, or ever built for D&D? It was a 3.5 edition hack of the rules. The Bag of Rats fighter.
Yes, we have talked about this many times.
Yes. We need the Bag of Rats fighter to come back, but less cheesily. That's all I'm saying. You should be able to whirlwind attack, greater cleave, and cleave, or something that approximates those as base class abilities. Most of the capstone stuff, this is something we're seeing right now with 1D&D, is that they are changing the upper level stuff, and you get the feat now, your epic boon at 20th level, and they move the capstone down a little bit, and hopefully the capstone for fighter is going to be something cooler. I don't even know what it is right now, but I know it's not It's not great. Hold on, I'm gonna go look up.
Yeah, but no, I could buy changing something so they can break through magical resistance and give them something magical at a certain point where their weapon attacks count as a base magic attack. And an AoE wouldn't be bad. But how do you scale that into the various subclasses?
Yeah, so you want to know what cool thing the fighter gets at 20th level is their capstone right now? They get a third attack. That's it. The fighter at maximum level, a 20th level fighter goes, yeah, I get to hit you one more time. That's my cool 20th level ability is I get to swing my sword one more time in a round. That's it.
Okay. So that means that's how they get their 4 attacks around at level 20.
Yeah. Yeah, you get 3 attacks and your bonus attack. That's your 4 attacks. So at level 20, and the way you get your action surge, the way you get to 9 attacks is you do an action surge. At level 20, you have 2 uses of action surge and 3 attacks.
4
plus
attacks.
A bonus action. One of your attacks is a bonus action.
Nope.
Oh no.
It's the extra attacks on top of your first attack. If you look at
Right. You're right. You get 3 extra attacks.
So for a total of 4.
For a total of 4, and an action surge, which gets you 4 more, and a bonus action.
Yeah.
And if you're hasted, you can technically get 10 attacks in a round as a fighter if you're fighting 2 weapons. But even at that, so let's say
10d8.
What are you doing? You're doing it. Let's call it. Let's be generous and say you're swinging something that does a D10. You're still doing, at your greatest in one round, you're doing 100 points of damage.
John, with strength bonuses, you're talking about 150, but yeah.
Well, even at 150, but you're doing that once,
Twice tops.
Twice
you get
tops.
2 action surges at 20th level.
Yep.
While your druids over there casting blight, burning through their 7th level spell slots,
Yeah, and burning through that's the other thing is the fighter has the stamina. So at the end of the fight, they could still keep swinging and still do reliable damage.
Yeah. Wait. You want to play compares though? As a druid at 20th level, okay, I drop a AoE concentration spell on the board, right? I then wild shape and make attacks using my wild. Say I turn into a bear or whatever. I turn into an owl bear or whatever. Or I turn into a fire elemental because by that point I've got the ability to elemental transformations. I turn into a fire elemental and I go burn the shit out of some people. And every round I turn into a different animal and smack the shit out of people, or a different elemental and smack the shit out of people. And never have a chance of being hit in my real hit points. Because I'm a new animal every turn. Because the Archdruid capstone is unlimited wild shape. Unlimited. So if I'm a moon druid and I can do that shit as a bonus action, I can take a new form every fucking round and have fresh hit points. I'm untouchable. And you're swinging a sword for 100 points of damage twice in the course of a combat. Meanwhile, I've got an AoE spell that's doing however much fucking damage to them or doing other things to them while I'm running around engulfing them in flames because I'm a fire element.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they do buff the fighters, give them something cool.
I'm not saying don't get me wrong. I love playing a fighter. I love the fighter. I love the idea of the guy with a stick, with a metal stick going toe to toe against these things that are way above his pay grade, and still hanging out with these assholes who actually cast magic and reshape reality around them. And what's he got? He's got a metal stick to hit people with. I love that. It's Batman fighting next to Superman, it's cool. But it's, they could use a little something, something.
All right. Any questions from the chat? It's about that time. We're getting close. So we love the interactivity of the chat, interacting with us. It's one of the reasons we love doing this. So hit us up.
Sorry. We kind of got up on our soapboxes there for a minute, guys. As we're wont to do.
And that's the beautiful thing about this. We can agree and disagree and everything and still be friends at the end.
Yeah.
And everybody's table is different.
For real, there are still 2 subclasses of fighter I have not gotten to try that I very much want to play at some point. I really want to play an Echo Knight. I think Echo Knights are awesome. And I really want to play a Rune Knight. Because I think a Rune Knight would be a lot of fun.
So what I'm hearing is kill one of your characters.
I did not say that. I did give you 5 backup characters at this point, but that's just
but
because
even better, you gave me wide open backstories.
Yeah, you do you really want to lose the wide open backstories that I gave you with these 2?
No, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. Sark's ready for a break. He's going to enter a port and no one's going to know him. It'll be nice.
Sark's going to be like my dad, no matter where he goes.
As I said last night, Tier, I got a shiny nickel for you if the first living people we encounter know Sarek somehow.
Yes, Chad is correct. Noob mistake. Don't give your DM plot hooks to use on you.
I made my choice and I stick by it.
Oh.
But I'm not saying I'll make that again. That I'll make that choice again. So if Tier should kill off one of my characters, I may not give him such cool playthings to play with in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just want this put out there. I'm not trying to kill anyone. Combats that I have made, I have scaled them to be difficult, not deadly.
Mm-hmm.
The dice have just been brutal to some people. That's
yeah, but it's not going to stop us from picking on you about it.
Oh no, and I expect it.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's see.
So here we go. This brings me to, as a DM, how would you play it? I played it a certain way, and looking back, I think I would have done it differently. But you have someone that's performing a ritual, something that will take X amount of rounds to complete. If someone counterspells it during the middle of the ritual, would it stop the ritual? It was with an at 20.
Yeah, no, I think I would. I think I would. No, I would. Look, here's the thing. The spell was being cast in a language the person didn't know. You made them make an Arcana check to recognize what was happening as a spell. They then counterspelled as a reaction. I don't see a difference in they were going to use that reaction. Making that Arcana check meant that they understand how the magic works, right?
Mm-hmm.
So technically, rules as written, you should have had them wait until the moment the spell was being completed for the counterspell to be thrown for it to have effect. Throwing the counterspell in the middle of the ritual should not have had an effect. However,
that one just being the speeding counterspell. You attempt to interrupt a creature in the process of casting a spell. It's an instantaneous effect in the process of casting the spell. So the spell itself, description-wise, says it doesn't have to wait to the end of the casting of the spell.
But all right, but here, my point is this: that it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
She made the Arcana check. She knew what was going on. She knew it was a spell, and whether she made the counterspell in that second or she waited until the spell was about to go off and then counterspelled it, it's the same. Because she made her Arcana check, so she knows she would have been able to recognize the spell coming to its completion and then counterspelling. She would have had the reaction available to her. I think the argument is a moot point, that it's just a timing issue, and that Arcana check negates the player throwing the counterspell at the wrong second. You know, the character making that Arcana check means they know when the right time to throw the counterspell is, and you just allowed that roll to happen right then instead of making the roll wait until the right was nearly done or was at its completion point. Is my point. Regardless of what counterspell actually says, that it all comes out in the wash, because that Arcana check is the deciding factor. That they knew and spelled and when to counterspell it.
And I'll agree with that. And also, thank you, Raph, for the clarification, because I thought it had to be once the spell was cast, but trying to interrupt, that just goes hand in hand with the way I played it. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think counterspell is a minor telekinetic effect that that makes one of your fingers bend the wrong way while you're in the middle of a somatic component, or it makes you stutter on a syllable.
Great.
I think it plays Baby Shark in your head and breaks concentration.
Or that, yeah, sure.
That's the new flavor in Runeth Kesha. Counterspell is just a group of kindergartners singing Baby Shark. All right, guys. I'm looking at Mr. Clock. It's about that time. Thank you all for joining me today. Thank you all in the audience for being here. We have the best audience. We have the best fans, bar none. So let's tell people who we are, where they can find us, and let's get the hell up out of here.
All right, gamers, I've been Raph the Mad, been one of your co-hosts tonight, and I can be found at BLKDragon13000 on Twitter.
Hi, gamers. I'm still Locke Clark, and you can find me on the Book of Faces and the Twitter Patience at Locke Unruly. That's Locke with an H.
And I'm Tier the DM. I am the world's okayest DM. I have the shirt to prove it. You can go back and watch the VOD from last week. I wore it. I just want to say that we appreciate you guys so much, and that even though things get dark or times get hard, remember you're not alone. Rest in someone's love and strength until you can be the strength and love for someone else to rest in yours. Remember, love and inclusion, these are the torches that light a path to a better tomorrow. Come join us and be torchbearers. And till next time, if someone doesn't know, don't cast aspersions. Cast guidance.